There are 4,315,275,402 Alabama football podcasts on the internet. And now you get to ignore every single one. This is the Houndstooth Podcast. Real talk from real fans. We gump to a standard around here. Recapping the Alabama Crimson Tide and college football from around the SEC and across the nation. This is the Houndstooth Podcast. And here are your hosts, Bill Sylvie, Jessica Brand, John Henry, and Bo Ganora.
Well, good morning, sports fans, and not the best of mornings. I'll be honest with you, not the best of mornings. Of course, if you're just joining us, if you slipped into a coma yesterday afternoon and are only just coming out of it to listen to our show, thank you for placing us on such high priority. But as it happens, the Alabama Crimson Tide fell to Texas A&M 41-38 last night. It was not precisely a tour de force for the Tide. I am certainly not ready to give up and run out and buy Cincinnati Bearcats merch just yet. But we obviously had some issues. We had some struggles with our friends from out west yesterday, and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what else are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the top 10, the top 25, and other games of interest from around the country. So I'm going to stop running my mouth now and let my esteemed colleagues talk about what they saw last night. And we'll just kick it off with Bo Ganora. Bo, what do you got?
Good morning. How you doing, Bill? So what I saw was, it was more about what I didn't see yesterday. You know, I didn't see consistency in execution. I didn't see the effort. That's probably not fair. The guys were trying. They just weren't, we had some missed assignments. They weren't executing their assignments properly. And I did not see anyone wearing stripes that had ever read the rule book. There were so many egregious, just really wet calls and no calls on both sides that I'm surprised that they were even able to, start and stop the clock correctly. So, we dug ourselves on a hole, right? He had gave up 17 points in the first quarter, which is highly unusual, and it was just a hill too high. It was a bridge too far there at the end. But I did like the way that they came back after halftime and literally just shut A&M down for, up until the last two drives. And so there's some positives to take away from a loss, but hopefully this is going to be, motivation for the rest of the season. I feel like the team has the talent to do it, but they are still a bit young, and we saw some of that last night, I think.
Right on. John, how about you?
This was a tale of two halves. It was the worst of times. It was slightly less than the worst of times. Yeah. The first half was just terrible. We were making mistakes everywhere. I think we let the crowd stay in early, and I think it affects us. We're, especially on offense, we're a young team, and I think hostile environments are still giving us problems. I think maybe the second half they grew up a bit and got better at it. But the same story as in Florida. The crowd noise got to them, and they had trouble communicating, getting plays off on time, and the offense was just very out of sync because of little things on for especially the first half. Not so much in the second half. The defense had trouble stopping the run in the first half. They got better in the second half. Started playing their assignments better. Picked up the intensity quite a bit. But the the success that Texas A&M had with the run early, I think, affected the defense late, and um, I'm still shocked that we let Calzada get 285 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. I'd see that coming.
I'm tired of mediocre quarterbacks having a career day against Alabama. I'm just tired of it. Okay, I'll say that.
Well, the funny thing is, it happens. It just when it happens, we all remember it because the mediocre quarterback that we all talk about, that was 11 years ago. That
I know, but still,
yes, I know. It's just it happens so infrequently that when it happens, boy, it sticks out like a sore thumb. And Calzada, a lot of this was Calzada looked really good last night, and I mean, it wasn't necessarily us being bad as much as he decided to take a step up, and he played way better against us than he has against anybody else yet this year. Kudos to him; he did well. But
Calzada for Heisman.
let's not get ahead of ourselves. But
Right.
yeah, it is frustrating to see a guy who is clearly struggling all of a sudden grow up and execute their offense the way it's supposed to be executed. Um, I have to give Brian Robinson credit. 147 yards rushing on 24 carries. He had a game, and I think if he hadn't have stepped up, our offense was going to be in a lot more trouble. He picked it up when the rest of the offense was struggling, and I'm glad we've got him right now. Young was pretty good, not great. 369 yards passing, but one very questionable throw into the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
And he was under pressure last night a lot. And that offensive line has got to get better, or we're gonna drop more if they don't. That's just all there is to it. That's the weak point on the team right now.
Yeah. Jess, opening shots.
Yeah. What you saw last night from the Alabama Crimson Tide is that they have a tackle problem on the strong side. Notice how often when they went to Robinson, who, by the way, I thought did a very good job on second level efforts, they would go through Neal and they wouldn't go through Owens. They did a total of like 1 or 2 times. In a game where Robinson had about 20, had so many rushes, I think it's telling that was their game plan. It was frustrating to not see them go on the ground on first and goal from the 4 at least once, and you wind up kicking a 22-yard field goal. Conservative football is not winning football when you're in a tight game like this. It was really unfortunate to see that. And what happened to Mechie last night? I mean, Garrison Williams looked the part, but I expected to see more play action, more double moves. Bryce looked a little bit rattled in the first half, granted, so they shifted away from that. But when they had him going, they had them on the rope. They had Texas A&M on the ropes. And the fact is they didn't really respond to it well enough in terms of a game plan. They felt very linear, and that to me is concerning. Pete Golding was not so much of a concern to me. I felt like it was very obvious that Malachi Moore was missed from the targeting. They got Sanders very much missing. It was very much a depleted unit. It doesn't excuse anything, and you want to talk only about the players that are on the field. But you could tell that the communications weren't there on defense. There was kind of some mess on special teams, too. The few kickoffs out of bounds. Like, I think that's going to be lost last night before the final Aggie drive that happened. It was just a messy game, and there are a lot of little things that went wrong. Now, thankfully, some of those can be fixed with health. Some of them need to have people step up. And I think at this point, Seaman believes, as does Doug Marrone, that this is the best fight they have to put out there on the offensive line. It's a shame nobody's really stepped up a right tackle, even including Owens. Although nothing against Chris, I'd rather be someone else because that way he can move inside. Because this guy's not a tackle. He's consistently getting beat. Bryce Young was being bludgeoned out there, and it's incredibly frustrating to see just simple little things like that. The fundamentals not being there. Communications. You talk about the guys running into each other because everyone got bumped up after Malachi Moore got ejected. These guys are young, which means they don't have as much time to talk with one another, and they're not really familiar with the rules that they were placed into by force. Now, granted, you need to adjust. That's football. But I just saw. I mean, honestly, I think it was a miracle. It was a 3-point loss. I think it could have been a lot more. As much as the second half penetration was great, there were just so many things that were just mind-boggling to me to see from an Alabama team. It didn't feel like a Nick Saban coach team. I mean, honestly, like this could have been DuBose out there with some of the ridiculousness I saw.
Mm-hmm. I kind of made the tongue-in-cheek comment to Jessica last night. I said, maybe we fell into some weird kind of space-time warp where this was the Alabama that ended up being coached by Rich Rod. and Nick Saban found himself in an alternate dimension winning against Texas A&M, who was expected to beat us by 50 points. Well, let's look at the tail of the tape, guys. So... Passing 28 of 48 for 369, average 7.7, 3 TDs and an int for Bryce. I mean, the yards looked good.
It's not that he had a bad game,
No.
you know. He was under pressure so much.
He was. B-Rob, 24 carries, 147 yards, average 6.1, long of 24. B-Rob looked good last night. Jamison Williams, 1 for 4. Roydell Williams, 2 for 3. So our receiving core looked good. Could have looked better. Jamison Williams, 10 for 146. Long of 32. 2 TDs. Mechie, 7 for 88. Long of 40. B-Rob, Brian Robinson Jr., 4 for 60. Long of 29. Roydell Williams, 2 for 28, long of 20 with 1 TD. JoJo Earl, 1 for 19. Slade had 2 for 16, long of 9. Latu, 1 for 10. And Trayshawn Holden, 1 for 2.
Billings, I just want to say Billings. I mean, he was a good blocker last night. Don't get me wrong. He had some very underrated blocks, but his blocks were hands too. Like he was a nothing in the stat sheet in terms of receptions, and of course that big drop on second down. Yeah. My God.
Oh God. Helms.
Mechie had a couple of drops too.
Yeah. Helms had 1 int on the night. King and Buddy, I'm sorry, I'm going to mutilate this. Anybody want to step in with King's last name? King Makita, thank you. King Makita. Just think of the chainsaw brand. King Makita. 1 TD. That was nice on the punt returns. Ja'Cory Brooks, 1 for 19. JoJo Earl, 2 for 17. Reichard was perfect last night. I mean, hey, there's a little bit of a silver lining.
Yay!
And James Burnett got way more work than I wanted him to.
Yeah, agreed.
4 for 140 with a long of 43. So that's the tail of the tape. You know, I literally at halftime was the worst of fans. I was just like, it ain't even gonna be a high tide, low tide elephant stomp. Just the low tide, just this whole game, and justly so. I mean, we looked bad. We looked bad in the first half. But no, I think there are some positive takeaways. There's some stuff we can look at. I will start off with high tide was the entire third quarter. During that third quarter, when I shut up and I got off Discord and I just paid attention to the game, and slowly drank my beer. I thought, we might have this. We absolutely might have this. The third quarter squad was, and well into the fourth quarter, that squad was the joyless murder ball that I had so wanted to see. Low tide, of course. Just take your pick. But I'm going to go all the way back to the first quarter, and that absolute... Look, getting zebraed, getting ref balled, under the process should be meaningless. It should not matter, because if you're doing everything else that counts, one egregious call, two egregious calls. A refereeing squad that seems hell-bent on flipping plays for the other team shouldn't matter. But I didn't agree with the targeting call. I thought it was bullshit. He did not hit with a crown, and that cost us. That threw our defense completely out of sync. And it let A&M play football at will. That was my low tide spot. Elephant Stomp is going to be that amazing TD pass. Y'all know the one. A&M is just standing around. It's like, oh, are we in it? Boop, TD. And it's the Elephant Stomp moment for a couple of reasons. One, because it was a TD, and it was, it raised hope and sort of thing. Two, because the CBS booth was livid that we got away with it.
Yes, they were, weren't they?
It was absolutely crystal clear. Look, with all due respect to Gary Danielson and his years of high-profile sports calling, and Brad Nessler, and whoever they had in their officials calls booth, some days you get the bear, and someday the bear gets you. Now, in the overall, the bear got us last night. But listening to them wail and gnash their teeth that we had dared to Auburn ourselves a touchdown was delicious. It was like, the meal sucked, but the appetizer was great. So, and I do have to give this comment before I turn the keys over to you guys and get your opinions on this. For William Sims, and I'm gonna put your comment there up as soon as I find the right tab here. Says, people wanting coordinators fired for not realizing someone else on the staff has to call plays. Who among Holman, Wiggins, Doug, Marone, etc. do you want calling plays? If that is intended for the hashtag fire Pete Golding, the first half crawl is always jokes. It's always jokes. I mean, the University of Alabama told us in an email they had a plan to beat Texas A&M, but quite frankly, we cannot verify that as a callback to the beginning of season with that egregious high school game that ESPN ran, and the hashtag fire Pete Golding. Okay, all right. He says, nah, LOL. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. I don't want to parade around downtown Tuscaloosa with Pete
should put the crawl in Sartalics.
I should. I'll get on the phone with Streamlabs and see if they'll add a Sartalics option for that. But anyway, so just in case anyone was legitimately wondering if I'm over here trying to start a GoFundMe to buy out Pete Golding or anything like that, no, I'm not. Did we need a more flexible defensive scheme that could deal with a loss? Like losing a key player 3 minutes into the game? Yes. But we do what we must, and we roll on. So, oh, let's see. Jess, high tide, low tide, elephant stomp. What do you got?
I mean, I want to answer the question though. I mean, I picked Doug Marone. Look at 2012 Syracuse when they combined plays really well. They did some really clever stuff with RPO action about just making it really quick. It was a bunch of mixed plays. It's called a combination or a package play. Um, Basically, what you do is, it's simple stuff, but it's quick stuff. It's enough to keep a defense off balance, and that's what you would want to run when your offensive line is losing battles. Hugh Freeze used to run this all the time. I mean, that'd be my choice because I thought when they hired Marone and O'Brien, granted, because of recent experience, I get why Marone was named offensive line coach, O'Brien was named defensive coordinator, but I thought those should have been reversed. Anyway, high tide. It's hard to pick. Elephant Stomp definitely going to be the punt block for a touchdown. Low tide, I think, honestly, is you take your pick here, but I'm going to say the kickoff return immediately after. You're within 7 at that point, and you have every reason to think the defense is going to make a great stop. And granted, they did make some stops, but you can't even have a chance to if you're just letting the return man fly right down the field, and there's no opportunity to do so. Yeah, that's just frustrating. And the fact they fought back from that, even tied, is absolutely incredible. But maybe that's just it, though. The resiliency of really Evan Neal. He didn't have a perfect night, not by any means. He was gashed for the double A blitzes, the double B blitzes that that a lot of times that Texas A&M brought, especially in the second quarter. But man, he really stepped it up in the second half. An unsung hero. And I really don't want to credit I don't want to really credit Riker too much. I didn't like his kickoff game. It wasn't especially smart, which that part doesn't score any points per se, or at least directly on the scoreboard, but it does obviously impact the field position battle, and that mattered last night.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Well, Gurley, what do you got? High tide, low tide, elephant stomp.
You know what? I'm going to start with low tide, and I've kind of got a tie between the last 2 drives where we finally get a lead, and all of a sudden they start throwing the ball, and they're throwing the ball all over the field and getting completions all over us, and we just could not stop them the last 2 drives. It's going to be either between that or the lack of a pass rush all night. Our personnel, the lack of a pass rush didn't have anything to do with us losing a safety in the first quarter. That's something different that we just could not get to him. And the couple of times that we got to the backfield, we were taking bad angles, and he was escaping the pocket. I mean, they were running underneath him from the outside and allowing him to escape the pocket and get a quick scramble or throw the ball downfield. So, you know what? I'm flipping a coin. The lack of a pass rush the whole game. That's my low tide. The high tide, the fact that we fought back from 14 down on a couple of different occasions, and we kept coming and we kept coming and we never gave up, and we just kept fighting. That's a good thing, and that's a positive that I think we can take from this game, and I think that's something we can build on. My elephant stop, I'm going to agree with Jess. It's the block punt that gave this team some life and got some things going.
All right, Bo.
So, Jess is in my brain. That is exactly what I had picked. But I'll go with low tide, just the whole first half, especially the first quarter. There's plenty of stuff in there that you can pick one. High tide was the adjustments made at halftime and clawing their way back and not giving up, and the effort that they gave. Elephant stomp, I'm still going with the block punt for a touchdown. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was that was some pretty good stuff. Definitely won't argue with you on that. Like I said, for me, it was so hard to pick, but the fact that the pass pissed Nestler and especially Danielson off so much. It was that much better. Anyway. All right, well, it is halftime, ladies and gentlemen. Time to crack a brew, check those ribs in the oven, sit back, let's talk a little bit of trivia. Now, we threw you guys a bit of a curveball last week, if I may switch up my sports analogies a tad. So last week's trivia was, who was the first All-American at Alabama? And the answer was William T. Vandergraff on the 1915 squad. And by the way, trivia on top of trivia, because that's how we roll around here. If the name Vandergraff sounds familiar, like, oh, Vandergraff generator? Ha ha ha. Yes. Yes. That is the same family name. And nobody got that one. That was a little deep. I didn't know that one. So big thanks to Girly Man for providing that one. Now, John Henry, I think you have this week's trivia question for us, yeah?
That I do, and unbeknownst to me, it's going to build on top of the trivia question from the game last night on CBS, because it's very closely related. So based on their trivia question, we know that there are 3 coaches that were head coaches at both Alabama and Texas A&M. Bryant, Stallings, and Francione. Sorry, that was hard to get out.
No, I understand. We'll get you through it.
Thank you. But there's another Texas A&M head coach that has ties with the University of Alabama. Who is the coach, and what is the affiliation?
All right, folks. Well, there you go. There's the trivia question. Now, we see a response and answer. If you want to put it in the chat, first person to get it in the chat, we will announce it at the end of the stream, and then you get the shout out next week.
Right.
Now,
chat there. So thank you for participating there. That's Commandant Kleicher. I do have a little bit of comments on Vandergraff, if you don't mind. So I have some crazy facts. So I was looking him up about a year ago, and you guys are going to love these stories.
Okay.
It's going to be really quick, if you don't mind.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So there was a scoreless tie against John Heisman and Georgia Tech in 1911. So John Heisman declared they had never seen a player so thoroughly imbued with the true spirit of football as Harbor Vandergraff. In a game in 1913 against Tennessee, he nearly lost an ear and tried to rip it off to avoid leaving the game. So there's that. But that's not all. So his father was actually part of the 1880 Yale team that basically founded football. He actually played against Alabama in 1917 as part of a war team, because back in those days we actually played war teams. And his brother did at the very least. So there's a thought that he played against us in war. He died at 44, but man, he had a really big life. You know, the generator, though, so that helped not only cancerous tumors, but let's consider what happened pretty recently about back in those days with generators. So his generator was basically what physically built the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. Basically, the Vandergraff accelerator helped determine what the nucleus of the plutonium would be in regards to what would cause the explosion. And that only happened with the Vandergraff accelerator. This guy was absolutely legendary. He was a redhead too, by the way, on top of everything else. But he has so many stories about his brothers in football, his family's originations in football, in American war times, in future past his own life. Read up on his biography if you get the chance to do it. He's one of the most fascinating football players I know of.
That is truly fascinating. I'm gonna have to check that out today. Well, that dovetails nicely, Jess. You've got the ball. So it is halftime is over. Back out onto the field with you, and it's time for Jess's no kisses, no hugs, when she's gonna break down some of the plays of the game. Not just break down. I had plenty of breakdowns last night. Thank you. we're gonna look at some X's and O's with Jess.
Yeah, no love lost last night. That's for sure. That's why we call it, because it's X's and O's, but no hugs and kisses. So today's choice play is pretty simple. Usually it's going to be the one that I'd like is the elephant stomp, and this week is no exception. It's the pump block for 6 by King Makita. So first thing I noticed when I was looking back at this play in the film, again, this is going to be really simple and quick this week because it's a pump block. Not much to say about it. But look at the alignment immediately, because, I mean, the first thing I thought I was going to look at here was good blocking. There was good blocking that made this happen. But look at the blocking assignment immediately that Alabama puts up. So Texas A&M winds up having 2 back for blocking or protection on the strong side. They are not in max protect. They are in standard protect with a possibility of, some additional protection, but it's not max. So you have 2 guys coming off relative to the punter side, his left. So, or it's 2 or 3 more. I couldn't exactly tell based on the angle. So all 3 of them charged in unopposed. So the first thing I noticed about this play, Slade Bolden, number 18, is the real reason this play happens. He charges in, he seals off the last Aggie to ensure that the 2 guys that are left, which are Mercahidi and Brooks, are able to reach the punter unopposed. So once Brooks gets there, and he does get there pretty cleanly, he just runs he basically runs a backwards wheel route, essentially, because he's uncovered. And there was no thought of this possibility about what could go wrong with it. It is not a good job by special teams of A&M, just of play design. I don't really blame their players so much, because if you're having 2-on-0 and your best chance is 1-on-1 with Slade Bolden for a block, granted they did have a size mismatch, but you can't guarantee winning that. So Brooks gets there, gets to the ball, and I want to note how he gets to the ball. If he goes up top, the ball has a good chance to still squirt away, even if it's not that great of a kick. He goes low and more towards the ankle and towards, the actual putting foot. And the reason you do this is if the ball isn't out, you're likely to hit the ball itself. It was close if the ball was actually punted at any point. But if you go low, you're likely to hit the ball, or you're likely to hit it going down as it goes back up, so it's easier to recover that way. And that gives it less area to respond, right? Because let's say you put like a screen over your window. It's a lot harder for something to pass through to the window when you have the screen there. So essentially he made his whole body a screen. And the great thing about that, again, like I'm saying, worst case that happens, you're going to get a really weak kick. So once King Mahita recovers the ball, what's nice is you see Jalen Moody essentially being his bodyguard, like right near the end zone, to ensure that only he can get there. So if anybody else is trying to actually get in the end zone, McKee is going to be the only one to have a chance to do so, because by the time, if and only if they beat Moody, they would have a chance to it, but no chance at that point. It was just really smart football all around. It was well executed, really well designed, by the way. And I wish we had seen more of that consistently. That goes not just in this game, but especially this game, but more in the macro of what we've seen of Alabama football. Well-designed plays that take advantage of opponents not considering every possible angle, and really, not only that, but playing through the play, winning one-on-one matchups, and then playing through until the whistle, and arguably after it, too. Really well done. Clean stuff. Not so much technical terms today, admittedly, but, I mean, I could get into that if we're talking about a really good punt, but we weren't talking about a punt, so.
So I noticed that they were reviewing that. Can you tell us exactly what they were looking for? Because I'm scratching my head going, it's obviously a block punt recovered for a touchdown. What the crap are they looking at other than, we can't allow this to happen for Alabama?
Right. So when they were reviewing this play, Gene Storter and the CBS booth and everyone, so they were ensuring that Makita had maintained possession before he went out of bounds, because he eventually did go out of bounds on the play because it took a while for them to recover the ball. That was the only question, and it was without question that he had. I mean, there was a little bit of bobbling, and they were wondering if he maintained possession, but no, he had. It's kind of like a receiver in that sense. Like,
okay.
Yeah, nothing too fancy. And if y'all have any questions or want me to look at any place for this game, just feel free to give me a message or anything like that, all right? and it's not too hard to do. It's football. It's fun.
Yep, you can just drop it in comments, guys. And we're working on getting Jessica a little bit more sophisticated as setup so we can actually show you guys those plays as they develop. She's going to have all the fun toys soon. It's going to be very cool. All part of our continuing to grow the excellence of this podcast and this live stream.
Just like Bryce Young. So he is still, according to Becky M, the Heisman favorite.
Well, that's great.
I think deservedly so. But that's interesting. Yeah.
I think we'd have probably a little bit more coin in that if we had won last night. But hey, you know. And I'm just gonna put 2 cents in, not about X's and O's, because Jessica's probably forgotten more about that than I would ever know. But for my fellow Alabama fans, that includes you guys here on the show and those folks out in the audience, remember the process. We've got 24 hours to celebrate or mourn. And then it's on to thinking about Clenga, Mississippi State. Old Clenga U. All right? So this ain't the end of the world. Think about where we were after Ole Miss in 2015 and think about what happened after that. Roll Tide and believe the process. All right, so let's talk about around the conference. And Bo and John, this is this is your play set.
Oh boy! Well, let's talk about the SEC West, guys. I just got some breaking news across my desk. The Big 12 got together. All the coaches got a giant card, signed it, and sent it to Ole Miss and Arkansas. On the front of that card, it said, "You guys might want to start thinking about playing defense."
That was an entertaining game to watch, though, man. I'm going to tell you what. That was a good one.
Yeah, 52-51 would have gone into overtime. Well, could have gone into overtime.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a that was a wild game. Arkansas had almost 700 yards of offense. I mean, they outgained Ole Miss. That's a little shocking, because Arkansas is the play defense and play enough offense to win kind of team, and whew, that's that's a wild game. Do we now have to worry about Arkansas being a big passing team and gunning us down? Ooh. Or are we just looking at another bad Ole Miss defense?
Well, I think what that game showed was that, with Arkansas's lost to Georgia the week before and Ole Miss has lost to Alabama the week before, I think we saw that these two offenses they're good offenses and they're good teams. They're not great teams, not yet anyway, but they are good teams. So those were quality wins on Georgia and Alabama's schedule. I would really prefer not to have the quality losses, but we've already talked about that. So,
yes. Yeah, 350 yards rushing by Arkansas. That's balanced offense. 326 yards passing, 350 yards rushing. Ooh, I mean, yeah, that was a bit of a shootout there. Moving on to cross SEC action, we've got Georgia hammering Auburn 34-10. Bo YOLO Nix.
True.
He was running for his life. Threw a few YOLO passes. Stetson Bennett, quiet, 14 for 21, 231 yards and 2 touchdowns. This Georgia defense, guys, it's a little bit scary. I mean, they can get some pressure on you. Their front seven is probably the best in the country.
Oh no, Georgia's defense is legit. Um, I was, and once again, I will still say they have not been tested with a real passing team yet. So their secondary, I'm still going to say, is up in the air. They look good, but I mean, I'm honestly surprised Bo Nix didn't get benched again last night. It just for no other reason than bring the other guy in for a series and see what's happening, because you know what you're going to get with Bo Nix. And my lovely wife, who's an Auburn fan, absolutely hates Bo Nix. She's like, "Get him out of there, bench him." It's actually pretty funny to watch the game with her.
Does she yell at the TV? Does
She
she
yells
try
at
to
the
coach, or does she just yell
at the TV. She screams at the pets. If there are children around, they run from the room with their hands over their ears.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
My
it's
wife doesn't like to be in the room with me while I'm watching like a game like last night. She doesn't want to be in the room with me, and I keep telling her, I'm not yelling at the TV. I'm coaching.
Yeah.
All right, there's a difference. I'm coaching. I'm getting the guys. I'm telling them what to do. I'm telling them how to be successful.
Right, and they're not listening.
No, they're not.
Got to yell louder.
Yeah, so that's what she tells everybody. Yeah, I had to leave the room when John watched his game. He was coaching a little loud last night. But yeah, Georgia. If we make it to the championship game, their front seven and their offensive line worry me. It'll be like last night. It could be like last night, but a little bit worse.
Well, we'll go out on a limb here.
They're good up front on both sides.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say this loss to A&M may be what this team needed to get to the point to where they can win against Georgia.
We hope that's what happens.
Fingers crossed. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. Now, Kentucky taking care of LSU 42-21.
Kentucky football school now.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, I couldn't get that out.
That's undefeated Kentucky.
The first time
undefeated number 16 Kentucky.
First time undefeated this far since 1950 when Bear Bryant was their coach.
There you go. Roll Tide.
I mean, honestly, this is 2007 parallels where they knock off an LSU too with all the chaos.
You know what? People say that you can't always tell how a game goes by looking at the numbers. You have to watch the game. But I think I can tell you what happened in the game by looking at the numbers. Kentucky rushing 330 yards.
Yep.
Oof.
Yep. So I have another LSU story.
Go for it.
Okay, so I have a really good coworker that lives in South Louisiana, Tigers fan. And I ran into some issues at work on Tuesday, and so I called him, sent him an email, left him a message. He was busy, so he called me back later that evening, and he's like, "Hey, man, I listened to your voicemail." He said, "It sounds like your weeks went downhill." I said, "You have no idea." I said, "It's almost like Joe Burrow graduated." And so he was like, "Oh," he's like, "I'm not talking to you. I'm hanging up now."
So, anybody got anything caught your eye this week in the top 25? I'm just going to go ahead and stick this out here. The continued collapse of LSU is entertaining to watch. Like, it's like gathering around and watching a building implosion, watching a grain silo in the Midwest get demolished.
Yeah, my question here is Coach O going to make it through the end of the season?
Yeah, I was kind of there too.
I honestly.
I mean, if he gets fired from this is the only fan base that can understand what he says. Where's he going to go? the poor guy. He's gonna have to open a po' boy
Well, let's
restaurant or
be real. He
something.
doesn't have to go anywhere, right? He's gonna go fishing. That's where you'll
Yeah, that's
go.
I tend to want to stay away from the ugly side of anything on a live stream, even on a lost weekend. But I've said this now for 2 seasons, and I believe it. What has got LSU's goat is a soul sickness. And fans, fellow panelists, there's a Title IX lurking in the shadows, and if the regents over at LSU need casus belli, they've got it. They could pull the trigger on Ed O today and say, no, we don't have to pay you. I don't know what his payout is, 18
trust me,
million,
they're
something
keeping that
like
in their back pocket.
I think they moved it to their front shirt pocket, to be honest with you. I will agree that there is a pocket, but I think they're nervously fingering the front shirt pocket where it is sitting carefully folded up, because it's not happening, and this is not a Nick Saban 2-loss season that sees us at the Citrus Bowl. This is not a Bear Bryant down season where we lose a Cotton Bowl to Baylor. This is not.
Oh no, this is a badly coached team.
It is a badly coached team. I mean, somebody pointed out over on an LSU forum, and this actually got traction, and even beat writers were talking about this. Some reporter in a panel in an interview with him said, well, maybe you could, maybe you could do this. And Orgeron's response was, yeah, actually, that's a good idea. We should do that. Not in a sarcastic, I mean, it's hard to tell when Ed Orgeron is being sarcastic or anything, but I mean, it seemed like he would, a coach who is being paid 8 figures a year should not be taking the advice of people who are literally no more talented at their job than we are here on this podcast. With all respect to all of us, I mean, I'm not going to stand in front of Nick Saban and say, you should fire Pete Golding. I would not survive the attempt.
But I would pay good money to see that.
Maybe if I found out I had some terminal disease or something, and it was just like,
wanted to get it over
my
with.
life is over.
I would love to watch it, maybe from the back of the room, out of the spit zone.
Like
maybe from
inside. That would be entertaining to watch.
Maybe from inside a bunker somewhere, like 100 yards away in a hardened bunker.
Let's Coach Saban force chokes you from across the room.
You think he'd be that subtle? Anyway,
I don't know.
So yeah, I there's something so broken at the LSU program, and look, I don't revel in seeing those young men under such stresses.
As I would not send my son to go play a sport there.
I wouldn't send my daughter to be a
I would not send my daughter to that school. I mean, no.
Florida had a good day though against Vandy, which means that they did exactly what we expected them to do. They won 42-0.
That is the praise of the lowest of expectations.
I know, but I mean, it's there. It counts, right? It counts as a game.
I mean, yeah, they beat an FCS school. Oh wait, that was Vanderbilt. Never mind.
Yeah.
That was not a conference win.
Yeah.
I refuse to acknowledge that as a conference win.
Tennessee jumped out early against South Carolina and then just kind of did nothing the rest of the other 3 quarters of the game. So Tennessee won 45-20 over South Carolina. I heard some ridiculous talk about Hooker for Heisman. I don't know if you guys caught that, and I'm like, really, guys, come on, let's be real here. And Missouri also got a win over North Texas, 48-35. North Texas is 1-4 overall now and 0-2 in Conference USA. Their quarterback passed for 305 yards against Missouri.
Wow.
Was that Scott Bakula?
It's A.A.Un.
Ooh, back from that was what, about 1990 when that movie came.
Yeah.
Guys, I just got a bit of breaking news come across my desk. Vanderbilt's football team is scheduled to go visit the Shady Oaks retirement home in Nashville next week. Sportsbook has them as a 17.5-point underdog.
Go Shady Oaks.
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
All right, well, let's take a look at the top 25. Iowa beat Penn State at home.
Yeah. Who was it that said? Well, okay, so was this Iowa is better than Penn State, or was this James Franklin coaching on the road?
They threw 4 picks.
I know.
Sam Clifford threw 2, and Taquan Robertson threw 2. It was just an ugly game.
Yeah.
It was a Big Ten game. I kind of looked like a Big Ten game in the snow, but
without the snow.
Yeah, without the snow. Mm-hmm. But Iowa's happy. They're probably going to be ranked number 2.
That's what I'm thinking. Iowa probably ends up second, which is all right. You got to check the calendar. What year are we in? You know?
Yeah, I know. And Cincinnati. Taking on Mighty Temple, won 52-3. Alabama tied Mr. Jerome Ford, 15 carries for 149 yards and 2 touchdowns. Good on you, Mr. Ford. Good job. Glad you're having success. So, Bill, what do we got from your friend on Cincy? Are they a top 4 team?
Right now, yes, they are. So, the Wizard from Cincinnati, my good buddy who watches the show, and we thank him for that. We love all our audience members here. No, I'm sorry, Commandant Krieger. That is not the right answer to the second half of the trivia question. Anyway, he caught the game. It was just a romper stomper over Temple. It was a bantamweight versus Mike Tyson. And yeah, I mean, looking at the way they're playing now, they're a very YOLO team. They got nothing to lose. I think them being in the top 4 is going to shake things up. So good on you, number 5, Cincy. And hell, who knows? Maybe we'll see you in the playoffs.
Could be. Who else thinks Texas should have won the Oklahoma game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, Caleb Williams looks incredible. I mean, that Marvin Mims touchdown pass is going to be legendary in that game's history.
Yeah.
I mean, you wonder about the future of Rattler. Are they just going to – I have to imagine because they've let so many people hang around in games. Rattler had 2 turnovers. I mean, I have to think they're going to make the change to Williams the rest of the way, right? Like that's just so interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an entertaining game to watch as well.
Well, the thing I picked up from this is Texas still can't stop the run. Oklahoma had 339 yards rushing. That's what killed them against Arkansas. So the line on these guys is run the ball. Just keep pounding them.
Yeah. Mac and Bijan Robinson running against the Texas defense.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got to see the first half of this game, and yeah, the running backs, they were bouncing off of these guys like pinballs. It was, I mean, they're having trouble tackling. They need to work on that, I think.
Ohio State took down Maryland 6-17.
Oh,
So,
Maryland.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, Stroud threw for 406 yards. So
Good God.
is that okay? Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Ohio State's back." I don't know how much you can take away from that game, honestly.
Oklahoma State had a bye because I think they were down for some scheduled mullet maintenance.
Mullets are back. I'm seeing them
And
every year.
front. Mullets are back and front.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that should be an official Photoshop filter. You just click a button and you mullet your target.
Here you go.
Make sure
Khaki got to win.
So I'll let you guys in on a little bit of trivia, a little bit of behind the scenes. I'm usually putting this ticker together at the end of Saturday night, and it's murder when you have 2 or 3 Pac-10 teams in the top 25, and they do that Pac-10 after dark bullshit, where I literally have to sit up until 3 o'clock in the morning to wait for games to finish. I thought I was going to cry when there was a game against Hawaii last week that didn't start until 11 o'clock Eastern Standard last week. So most of the Pac-10 is now out of the top 25, so I can get the ticker done and still get a decent night's sleep. So thank you, boys. You made my life much easier.
Yeah. So Michigan remains undefeated. They beat Nebraska 32-29. Moving on. BYU lost to Boise State. Oh goodness. 26-17. So that probably puts Michigan State in the top 10, which I feel like they should have been there the whole time, but that's just me. So Michigan State beat Rutgers handily 31-13. I'm not talking about Notre Dame. Somebody else can go.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah, Michigan State beat Rutgers as one should.
Exactly. Oh yeah. No, granted, as one should. But Rutgers has won 3 games this year. I don't know who against, but they have won 3 games.
But they also threw a pick and lost 2 fumbles.
Yeah.
Turnovers will get you beat. I think.
Yeah.
We found that out last night.
I'm really looking forward to the Michigan State game this year. Not that I would ever wish anything good on khaki pants, but I hope they're undefeated when they play Michigan State, and I want Michigan State to keep them their first loss of the season.
All right, so we are, as we said, Oklahoma State's idle this week. Arkansas lost to Ole Miss. Notre Dame, they rallied to beat Virginia Tech 32-29 in Blacksburg. And a question from this, guys. What's with this 2 quarterback thing?
I mean, don't ask Brian Kelly that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Probably kill one and say, what 2 quarterbacks?
Well, Buckner, people are talking about, well, he earned some more playing time. He threw 2 interceptions. Notre Dame's offense is not good. They have 2 quarterbacks, therefore they don't have any quarterbacks right now. Their offense is in search of an identity. Blacksburg is a tough place to play, but Virginia Tech is good. They're a decent team. They're not a top 25 team. If Notre Dame was good, they wouldn't have lost to Virginia Tech. Coastal.
I watched that.
Bested the Wolves of Arky State 57-20 or 52-20.
Coastal's a fun team to watch. First time I've got a chance to watch them this year, and they don't have a lot of talent, but they are all in, and they had some mistakes early on in that game, but they were able to work through it and win in the fashion that we expected them to do.
Well, the best team in South Carolina had 294 yards rushing on the game, so that's pretty
Yes.
good. And I
I
just want to
would
point
pay money
it,
to see Coastal versus Clemson.
Coastal has an offense. Clemson, not so much. Okay, take it, Bo.
Wake Forest, 6-0 for the first time since Moses came down off the mountain. 40-37 over Syracuse. So they're 4-0 in the ACC. I want to ask Jess. Jess, who do you see coming into the ACC championship game, and who do you think wins?
Oh, jeez. I mean, honestly, I don't believe in Wake Forest. I think that team is going to be an issue, right? Because I can see NC State right now. Maybe Clemson comes out as like a defensive fronted team. I mean, right now I would have to say maybe Pitt. I mean, I don't know. I think Pitt looks pretty legitimate right now. They have a pretty balanced attack about what they can do. Yeah, right now I'm going to go with the Panthers. Jeez, that's like a mess of a conference.
Yeah, definitely. SMU won against Navy, 31-24. SMU has accomplished something that Central Florida could not, which is beat Navy. So, and San Diego State beat New Mexico 31-7. I think that's everybody, right?
Well, back to Arizona State beating Stanford. Stanford was intercepted 3 times. One of the picks was a pick 6 with an interesting lateral. So the guy intercepted the ball was getting tackled by the receiver. Saw his guy standing there waiting behind him, pitched it to him.
Yep.
Pick 6. That you don't see those too often.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So just an interesting little side there.
Yeah, so Arizona State won 28-10.
Oh, and Florida State beat North Carolina. Not that that's top 25, but
that's more ACC
badness. Yes.
Score salad, something. I mean, whatever.
What was North Carolina's preseason ranking? It was something. It was well into the top 25. And now
I think they were top 10 at one point, weren't they? Weren't they ranked 10 at some point?
They were close to the top 10 if they weren't. But yeah, and they're awful. Oh. Yeah, is the ACC the worst Power 5? Are they the number 5 Power 5 team?
No, I mean it's the Pac.
I might rank the Pac above them this year. Most years, even like an average Clemson or Florida State or whoever, Oregon I think would beat any of them. But it's more like a top thing. I would trust the ACC's bottom, but I would trust the Pac's top more. So depending on how you look at it.
Oh.
It is well. I'm just trying. Yeah, it's so you've got Oregon, maybe Arizona State, and that's about it from there. But then you've got NC State in the ACC. Clemson may be a top 25 before it's over, but that offense has got to do something. They're bad. But that's about it for the top 25.
All right. Well, I was pretty keyed up for the thing that happened last night in College Station. So that was my key focus, but I just got to say, University of Texas and Oklahoma and Ole Miss and Arkansas, that was like watching a couple of city college basketball teams at the beginning of March Madness. That was what those scores were like. That was nuts, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just from sure, why not? Yeah, why not score 50 points in a game?
Sure.
I don't just mean 50 points in a game like short of running out on the field and ordering your players to not score, but even though you've got the fourth stringers in 50 points, I mean each side. It's crazy when you can look at something and go, yeah, I could see that happening with the 128th seeds, like the I don't know, some JUCO that somehow stumbles backwards into the big dance. But they were fun games, at least. I mean, so it's there was an entertainment factor there.
Yeah, I was watching Ole Miss Arkansas and catching Texas Oklahoma on. So I had Ole Miss Arkansas up on the TV, Texas Oklahoma on my phone, and they were both entertaining. And at one point, I flipped and put Arkansas on a small screen and Texas up on the big screen. But they were entertaining games.
I do have an apology to make, guys. I was in Nashville yesterday, sitting in Bob Evans, and
okay, I forgive you for eating at Bob Evans.
I forgive you for being in Nashville. Jessica, do you want to forgive him?
Yeah. we got to move on. I mean, honestly, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to think about.
So I will not apologize for eating at Bob Evans. I thoroughly enjoyed the biscuits and gravy. As a big guy, I recommend it. But I was sitting there eating a late breakfast, had the Texas Oklahoma game on my phone, watching it as I'm munching away. And on the way out, my wife, of course, wants to go shopping. So I'm kind of wandering around, wondering when this is going to be over. Run into a young guy wearing a Texas shirt and say, "Hey, have you seen the score of the game yet?" He's like, "No, what?" I said, I just looked 2 minutes ago and Texas was up 21-7 over Oklahoma. He's like, "Wait, what? No." And he sounds like a guy who just did not have much hope. And he checked his phone and he said, "It's 28-7. And he's all excited and he leans over and he's talking really excitedly to his girlfriend. So, sir, to you, I apologize for getting your hopes up. From the bottom of my heart, if I had known that would have happened, I would not have said anything. So to you, sir, I am truly sorry. You hate to see somebody's hopes get up that way, and then to be just thoroughly dashed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you talk about the cults of Texas football, and I don't know. Maybe I'd feel different if I was a God forbid a Longhorns fan, but I just don't like the fact that fucking Matthew McConaughey, who's a fine actor, all right, the guy's amazing. Yeah, if I was Sark and this guy rolled in and said, "Well, I'm just here. I just want to talk to you, coach, about your game plan this season," I'd be like, look, you creep. Get out of my office. Yeah, hook 'em horns. Get out. All right, that's nice. I'll wave to me on Saturday if you want to have some interaction with me. I got a program to run here.
Yeah, I wonder how Sark is dealing with the whole Texas.
What I wonder about Sark is, will you come and be our new dad? Please. Whatever.
For the offense, you mean? I hope.
Yeah, for the offense. Yes.
Yeah.
For the offense. I'm over the engagements of, who's going to replace Nick Saban when he's gone? Because the man has a contract extension. That's not a discussion right now. All right. It was fun to kick around in the lackadaisical days of late summer, but
I was told when he was hired that he would only be there 3 years.
Yeah, He was just going to come in and try and revitalize the program and keep the seat warm for Rich Rod to steal one from the guys over at SEC Shorts. Oh,
Well, he's
we're going to
back
get
in the
roasted
pros,
by
right?
SEC Shorts
Oh
this week.
wow! Yeah, actually, I'm looking forward to
they're
it. They
gonna.
always do a great job, but
I am.
last week was a little meh. But usually they're spot on, and I'm curious to see
We're
what.
toast. We're
Yeah,
so toast.
yeah.
So speaking of the coming week, because I think we've chewed all the flavor out of the top 25 highlights. Speaking of the coming week, again, giving ourselves 24 hours to mourn and then we move on. What are you seeing this week, Jess, stats-wise, in the matchup against Klanga?
I mean, it's not the most impressive offensive team, but they didn't do too well against a freshman center. Granted, they do have Kenyon Green, A&M does, but like I'm expecting a lot better performance from the defensive line, and it has to be somebody other than Anderson. Hopefully, like someone has to step up, right? Like the secondary is good. It's almost like an inversion of Georgia. But the problem is, if your secondary is the only part that's good, you can just be gashed in the short game. I'm not sold on Mississippi State's defense at all. Honestly, they shouldn't be too much of an issue, but they really need to be ensure that they moved on from this game. I mean, honestly, you're facing a team that has not that many offensive plays. You're facing the Pirate. It should be kind of a laughter of a game. And I think this is a team that, honestly, as much as it's going to be on the road at night with the Cowbells, this is probably, if you had to pick an opponent, this is probably who you want to face in the West. They're probably the easiest target to do so. I don't love going there on the Bells with how this team has responded to noise, but they certainly got good silent count experience last night. So, I mean, I think they'll be all right. It's just, I want to see more development. Statistically, it's a good matchup, but like, there are so many little things that need to be patched up. It's like a ship with a bunch of tiny holes. Yeah, they're not going to sink it by themselves, but you just hope one of them doesn't expand.
Right on. John Henry, you steel driving man, how are you feeling about it?
Well, I would be nervous about this considering that they beat Texas A&M, but I also know what this offense is. We know how to prepare for this. It'll be a lot easier to prepare for. They do not have the personnel to back it up, like Texas A&M did. This is going to be closer to something like the Ole Miss game. They're going to score a few points. We shut them out last year. I don't think we're going to shut them out this year. Due to, I think they're going to be executing on offense a little bit better, but it's not going to be particularly close.
Bo?
I'm looking forward to Air Force Boise State. No, Alabama should beat Mississippi State handily. Whether they will take this loss and use it as the motivation to get better, or just kind of wallow in their misery and come out flat, remains to be seen. I'm hoping for the former. I don't really believe the latter. I don't think coach will allow them to not be prepared for Mississippi State. I'm more concerned about Arkansas coming up than I am, Mississippi State, for sure.
Well, for myself, Mississippi State is always a weird game, and they get weirder when they're at Mississippi State, and weirder still when they're at night. I don't like playing Mississippi State at night. I remember we had to have a clutch win, which Jalen Hurts accomplished quite handily, but a few years ago, I think it could be a little bit closer than we're comfortable with. I think if we don't get ref balled, though, I think we will win handily. I would love to see a shutout. It's not going to be a shutout. just a balm for the soul. But we'll just take it as it comes. But yeah, I think going away, we're going to win. I would say, I'm feeling like this is going to be a 34-13 game. Don't run out and bet on that, guys, because I thought we'd win by 3 touchdowns last night. So shows what the hell I know. So yeah, Mississippi State will be an interesting game to watch, regardless. I'm kind of like Lou in Major League. Let's see how he reacts to it. And we'll see how we do. That's
How far do we think Alabama falls in the rankings?
Oh boy, 6.
6?
I don't think they fall 6 and wind up 7. I'm saying that they're probably going to be 6. I would be shocked. I would be shocked to my core if Alabama's not on the outside looking in by 2:00 Eastern Standard today.
Yeah, I think this is the chance that all the voters have been waiting for. We're probably going to have a lot of people voting them outside the top 10. So I'm kind of with you. I think they end up at 5.
Yeah, I think 6. They're up out of the top 5. They should still be ahead of Ohio State. They got beat by a better team than Oregon, in my opinion. Although the voters may not see it that way because Oregon's actually ranked.
FPI still has a chance to reach the playoff for Alabama at 53%.
Yeah, but the reporters ain't awake yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, sorry about that. I just kicked your sandcastle over.
Well, Cincinnati's at 50%. So, and this is after all the games from yesterday. So Georgia at 89%, Oklahoma 59%, Alabama 53%, Cincinnati 50%, which that's interesting.
Well, we play a lot more ranked teams. That'll get us back up.
True.
Assuming we can take care of business.
Yeah, nothing's, everything, like Coach said in his post-game press conference, everything still in front of them. They still have, the ability to win the division. They still have the ability to, make the SEC championship game. And if they make the SEC championship game and win, I don't see how you keep them out of the playoffs. That's just me.
Well, yeah. Sorry, got a little stuck in the throat there. Jess, any thoughts?
Whereabouts? Because I could give a lot of thoughts.
Any closing thoughts? Any parting thoughts?
Life really is a matter of peaks and valleys, but it's also how you respond. If you haven't fallen, you haven't given your sense the opportunity to get up. And there's the old saying in Japanese proverb that translates to if you fall 7 times, you get up 8. And I like to say that you're never as good as you are at your peak when you're 42-0 on Ole Miss. But you're never as low as this. The thing is, though, your true talent level or your true output lies somewhere more than likely in between. You have to be humbled after this past week and 2 weeks before. Neither is probably the realistic outcome for this team. It's still probably a playoff team. And if you told me at the beginning of the year that Alabama would stand its best chance to control its destiny without any other details at this time at the start of the year, and that Bryce Young would be the Heisman favorite, will you not take that? All's not perfect, but all's not broken. Regardless.
Roll Tide.
Absolutely. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Trivia.
Okay, so I put this before the council. We have We have a semi-winner. It was, and I'm going to mutilate this, Das Kommandant Krieger. I think Jess got that one a little bit better, but
he got, there was a before his joke answer, he got the correct answer.
okay, so he got the correct answer, and I didn't know. I didn't know if we were pinning the Jackie Sherrill answer on whether or not he got the connection, but obviously he knew. If
He got the
didn't say.
connection. Yeah, he did.
So he got the connection. So for those of you listening, or away from the keyboard or whatever, Jackie Sherrill was the correct answer to this week's halftime trivia question. The fourth coach of Texas A&M with ties to the University of Alabama, and Jackie Sherrill was on 2 national championship winning teams at the University of Alabama. So that is Jackie Sherrill's connection claim to fame. And we will give the shout out to the Commandant next weekend. And we will come up with another question for you fine folks.
So Jackie Sherrill also was a head coach at Mississippi State.
Yeah, but we can forgive him for that, I think.
Well, he, back in the early 90s, Mississippi State was going to play Texas. And a story came out of there that he had a bull castrated in front of the football team the week before the Texas game. So he, big motivational thing. Everybody thought it was funny. But his story was, some of the guys said they didn't know what a steer was. So we demonstrated what a steer was. So he brought over a bull over from the agriculture department and demonstrated a castration for the team. I would not have thought of that for a motivational tactic, but whatever works.
Of the many things I've heard, that is one of them.
Well, okay. So, I mean, it was a choice, and he made it.
Jackie Sherrill, he was a colorful character, let's put it that way.
No doubt. Well, all right. Any parting thoughts? Any last minute thoughts this morning, guys?
I think we pretty much covered it. I will reiterate that I'm hopeful that this loss is the spark this team needs to really go out and perform to their full potential. And I'm gonna lean on that.
Well, my final thoughts on the subject parallel Jess's. Well, I think they parallel pretty much everyone's in the fan base right now, and that is this. I'm unfortunately not nearly as good a speaker as Coach Saban when it comes to getting angry and motivational. I'm more of the yell incoherently type. But I'll reference it again. We all remember what happened in 2015 against Ole Miss. Nick Saban came out before the press, and they kept nattering him, and he said, look, if it was up to you, it's over. We're done. Gone. 6 feet under. We're buried. I'm not going to let this loss bury us. Not as fans, and I don't think Nick's going to let it happen to the team. We've got a long way to December, and a hell of a lot can happen. I think there's... Do I think there's better teams than us right now? Well, yes, of course. Do I think there'll be a better team against us come then? We'll see about it. But until then, I'm going to let the coach do what he does best, and I'm going to enjoy the rest of this season with you guys, with our fans, and we'll just see what that committee thinks come December. Right on?
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. All right, folks, it's been an absolutely educational and enlightening, and I will say fun Sunday morning live cast with you guys. So everybody, have an absolutely outstanding week. Have your meltdowns today, and know that tomorrow there's going to be a lot of stadium steps being run, and it's all for us because we got Clang of You to deal with next Saturday. We'll be back next Sunday morning with all the X's and O's, the trivia, the jokes, and everything else that we like to entertain with. So you guys have an absolutely stellar week, and we'll see you then. And until then, roll tide, roll.